All right, everyone, welcome to the Principia CrossFit podcast. Today, I'm joined by Rachel Erickson, one of our, I would say, newer members. Not new, but newer, right? When did you start?
October 11th.
All right, so since October, so I guess we're coming up on a year pretty soon, so that's pretty legit. Anyway, we're joined by her today because we're talking about our one-on-one training and kind of our process for joining our gym and how maybe your expectations were versus how reality was, and what you enjoyed, maybe what you didn't enjoy. Maybe there's nothing there, I hope. I don't know. Anyway, go ahead and maybe just explain to everyone where you were at before Principia CrossFit.
Okay. So, started in October of last year. Little backstory, I was completely out of shape. I was depressed. About 2 years prior, had lost my mom to suicide, and obviously, naturally, that flipped my world upside down. Took me quite a while to even figure out how to start to process that, and couldn't do much of anything but go to work, and came home and laid in bed and watched TV, and that was my life. And about October of last year, I just realized that I needed to start making some changes, and I started with very small things. And one of those was wanting to get in shape. I knew that I felt better when I was healthier, and at that point in my life, I felt I didn't feel attractive, I didn't feel confident, and I knew that I had to start taking care of myself. So that's kind of where I was at when I started.
Okay, cool, or not cool.
It's fine.
So yeah, you did all that. Can you explain a little bit more as to like why did you start, not just like a fitness thing, but why did you start here? Like what made you choose to do this?
Okay, yeah. So I had known people that had done CrossFit. I came from San Diego. I knew a bunch of people down there that were doing it. I had always wanted to try it, but was super nervous because I just thought it was, just a bunch of like crazy like meathead people who were self-absorbed and only cared about working out. And
so true.
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah. So everyone here's like that. No, I'm just kidding. And I'd grown up playing sports, but I wasn't like, I'd stopped that in high school, and so I pretty much hiked, and that was it. And I'm like, I don't even think I could do it. But something always intrigued me, and so it was super close. Principia is super close to my house. It's super close to my work. I knew that if I was going to be successful, I needed something to where I could like come right before work or come right after work, or I wasn't going to do it.
Couple less excuses.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so, I just I admired people that did it, and I said, to hell with it, I'm going to try it. And,
okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So basically, you had a belief that I think a lot of people have with the meathead thing.
Yeah.
I've heard that a lot, and I think that's actually going to be accurate in some places and inaccurate in other places, of course. Yeah. And the same could be said for Globo gyms, right? Like if you're going to, like we have all these axioms around us, but I'm sure that if you go to Axiom on this road and that road, it might be a little bit more bro-ish and kind of have that meathead vibe to it.
Yeah.
Whereas maybe the Axiom that's located in a different part of town is different. That kind of stuff is normal, but how were you able to, knowing or like kind of thinking that way, that there was just going to be meatheads here, you overrode that thought a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Or did you just say, I'm going to become a meathead?
No.
Okay.
No. I think I was at the place where I was like, it's time to like stop making excuses. Mm-hmm. And worst case scenario is I try it and it doesn't work for me. Mm-hmm. Or I try it and it's not the right place or it's not the right fit. Like there was no harm for me in trying. Mm-hmm. And I'm also the type of person that like, I obviously was very nervous to start, and it's hard to be the new person. But I think I'm past the stage in life where I care a lot what people think.
Okay.
And so it's like, I had to remind myself that I was out of shape, I was unhealthy, and I was where I was, and that had to be okay.
Yeah.
And that was okay with me, and if people were going to be rude about it, then I don't have people like that in my life. So
cool.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the first meeting. So you filled out one of our forms online. I reached out to you, said, hey, let's set up a time to meet. We met. You want to explain that meeting a little bit?
Yeah. So met with you in your office, and you just kind of talked about like this gym, how it is, how everyone is, kind of the expectations. I think you had like a list of things. You said that, I needed to be coachable, and you only wanted people that were coachable. And that wasn't a problem for me because I had no idea what I was doing.
Like, please coach me. You were thirsty for that?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
And just, I like some of the things that you said because you made it, I think in that meeting kind of took away some of my preconceived notions about CrossFit, just that like, who the people are here and what the expectations are. And
anything specific that you can think of?
I mean, I just didn't get, you're the owner, and I didn't get the impression from you that you were just like, all we care about is working out.
Dollar bills, y'all.
Yeah, and like, I genuinely felt that you cared about people's lives and getting them healthy and getting them to be like the best versions of themselves. And so there was nothing in our meeting that was like, like this, this gym doesn't sound like it's for me.
Nothing that made you, pose defensively or anything.
Yeah.
So I think with what she's referring to in those meetings, we are trying to identify if we think she would be successful here. And we're not always right, but the goal is to be always right, because we want 100% turnaround as far as lifestyle goes, right?
Yeah.
So when you came, you were in a certain situation, and now I feel like we're in a position where we could say you are not that same person anymore.
Yeah.
And you're someone that you wanted to be, and that this was a part of that transformation, but I don't ever give this all the credit.
Yeah.
Because you put in all that work, right? So anyway, in that meeting, when she talked about being coachable, one thing that we like to tell people is that they have to be open-minded, right? So it doesn't matter what your experience level is. Don't know what you're doing at all, to I've actually got certifications and all that stuff. Every single person needs to be coachable, because every single person is more successful with a coach. Yeah. So we're never going to just let somebody exist, I guess you could say here. Yeah. They're always going to have support built in through a coaching system, as well as our community and other things. But cool. So that's like that first meeting. That's how it went for you. Where did you go next? You know what I mean? What was the next step for you that we laid out for you, basically?
Yeah, so you talked about like a one-on-one plan and how many sessions you thought I needed. Asked me if I had a preference on coaches. I didn't really, you kind of explained each one. I didn't know any of them. And
so you're like,
you
just roll the dice.
Yeah. And then, assigned me with Rocky, and we got started. I think
How many one-on-ones did you have?
I did 12.
So she signed up. We deemed it appropriate that she would have 12 one-on-one sessions to prepare her better for CrossFit. So when we do those sessions, the goal isn't necessarily to like, we want you to be a monster when you get into class. It's nothing like that.
Yeah.
And 12 sessions probably wouldn't accomplish that anyway. But the goal of those sessions is to create a ton of like awareness. So you need to be aware of what a movement is, how to do the movement, and what muscles are used to accomplish it.
Yeah.
Right? Or emphasized even. Along with some other things too, like, pelvic stability, things like that.
Yeah.
At any rate, did you feel as though the 12 sessions were enough to create that awareness?
Yes, but I liked it so much that I bought 12 more.
She ended up doing 12 more. But you did those next 12, you did those like concurrent with classes, right?
Yeah, so I did my first 12, I did 3 times a week, and then I bought 12 more because I'd finally, for the first time in my life, found something that I liked. And it was worth it to me to put in more of an investment. Because I am known for like quitting everything that I start, and that's just how I am. I lose interest or I quit, and so I hadn't quit this, and that was a big deal to me. So I bought 12 more, and we did those once a week, and then I did 2 classes.
Yeah. Would you say financially that buy-in is important too? Like, what if we said, oh, you did 12, we'll give you 12 free, would you have done them?
Probably not. I mean, I think when you invest in something, obviously you have way more buy-in. You pay for your education, you pay for, this, and to me, I mean, it was a decent chunk of money, but I by
you
far
already deemed
thought
it worth
was
it the first 12.
Absolutely worth it. Yeah, and I would do it, 10 times over. Like,
cool.
It was a no-brainer for me.
Yeah, so what she's kind of describing is that we do the one-on-ones first no matter who you are. You could be a games level athlete and you're going to get one personal training session first. That's just how it's going to work, right? We determine how many sessions someone needs based off of their history. They range anywhere from literally one session all the way out to 24 sessions probably is probably the most.
I only needed 12.
So, so that's kind of how we deem that. And we're literally just listening to people and their stories, and we're trying to come up with, okay, if this is where the story's at now, how do we pick up the story and make sure it's successful at the end and it says happy ending instead of like dead end pages or anything like that. So it's kind of what we're doing in our first conversation. So can you think more specifically, how did the one-on-ones prepare you for the classes?
Yeah, I mean, they were huge for me. I learned what CrossFit was. I learned simple movements. Like, one of the things that I love is that, like, I can come in here and I can be told what to do, and I can be coached through that, as opposed to going to a gym and I would walk in a gym and not even know how to, like, use the machines. And so, I learned that I was doing a squat wrong. And I mean, I grew up playing sports. Like, I should know how to do a squat. It sounds pretty simple. Learned all the movements, and then, started to see that I was becoming more confident in them. And also, like, the relationship that I built with my coach, Rocky.
Don't say her name, actually.
Huge.
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, I was like, what? That's my girl. Was huge. I mean, she was, and I think any coach would have been a good fit. I love all the coaches here. I'm not just saying that, but she knew when to push me. She knew when to ease up a little bit, and she was just the perfect person at, like, encouraging me and investing in me.
And she's still checking in on you, which
and we don't have one-on-ones, and she checks in on me all the time.
That's
and
super
so,
cool.
like, that relationship that I built. And I mean, it just boosted my confidence, like, through the roof. I think had I just come in and started, I mean, I probably would not have come back.
Right.
If I just did a class, because I probably would have died, and then.
And we've done that to people.
Yeah.
Before we started making that that important enough for us to do, we would lose people literally in one workout.
Yeah.
Like, that's how it was, and it would be like, okay. We used to tell ourselves lies to make us feel okay with it. They're not tough enough. And it's like, that's never the case. It's actually just that we didn't do it right. And so we decided it wasn't cool to set someone up for failure like that.
Yeah.
So we're no longer doing that.
Yeah.
Instead, we're doing the exact opposite. We want to make sure everyone who comes in is set up for success. And if they fail for some reason, we want to know why and how we could do better to make sure that never happens.
Yeah.
So we really do try to learn from our failures and take ownership over that now. And I think that separates us from a lot of CrossFit gyms, even just in that on-ramp status, right? So you worked with Rocky. She's been with us pretty much the whole time. She started as just an athlete here with intentions of wanting to be in the fitness industry and stuff. Can you maybe just explain, like, your guys' relationship, kind of where it started, where it is now, what it was like along the way?
Yeah. So obviously, like, my first class, we did an assessment. We did very simple things. I think I did, like, a couple burpees and some
15 burpees, I think.
15 burpees, some sit-ups, the bike, and, like, I mean, it was very hard. I was like, wow, I'm incredibly out of shape. And obviously in the beginning I was nervous. I didn't know her, she didn't know me, but never once did she ever make me feel, like, embarrassed about where I was at.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of people that can do that maybe without knowing that. Just like, wow, like that person's, with a face that they make or something. And so she never once did that. And just was like super encouraging, not like over the top to where it was fake, but like very genuine, like you're where you're at and you're not always going to be there. And we're going to get you better and better and better, and healthier and healthier. And so, our relationship grew. If there was like, a time I tried to cancel or something, what's going on, things like that. Like, she was just invested the whole time. And the more I worked with her, the more comfortable I got. And I had like the personality where I would like apologize for like being where I'm at. And I'm like, I'm sorry, like I should know how to do this, but I don't.
That's actually really common too.
Yeah, and she never, she just would tell me like, shut up,
backhand you and be like, stop saying sorry.
Yeah, it's
you're
where
not
you're
Canadian.
at. Yeah. So, So.
I mean, not that there's anything wrong with that.
No,
being Canadian.
I actually am Canadian, so I'm really offended.
No, so I think what you were a lot referring to was a skill of a coach to have, that a coach needs to have in order for everyone to be successful, is communication.
Yeah.
So you were even talking a little bit more about the nonverbal side of it, but I think what's super important to note is that you, as our coaching staff comes in here with their certifications that they want to flash around or whatever, all of that means nothing if they don't know how to communicate.
Yeah.
So we actually emphasize the learning and use of communication far above learning a squat and things like that. Because again, all that knowledge is going to mean nothing if you can't effectively communicate it with the person and not make them feel like shit about themselves.
Yeah, and it's scary enough to like try something new.
Yeah.
Like you don't need to, I knew where I was at and I didn't need someone to like point that out, and she never did that. Like I never felt awkward or lazy or fat or, even though I felt that way and I was a little bit that way. So
like that was built into you, but she was getting it out of you.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So could you define maybe just a moment where you realized that the one-on-one thing was working and like you just had all the feeling that like this was it, you were in the right spot?
Yeah. I think for me it was pretty early on, and like I cannot emphasize enough like how out of shape I was. Like it was out of control.
How much weight have you lost? Inches. How many inches have you lost?
I mean,
you don't remember? I know they took measurements, but you probably haven't checked in for a little bit on that.
I'm sure like adding things up, at least like 10 to 15.
Yeah. Oh yeah, overall.
Yeah, like, it would be like an inch in each arm and then another half inch. And, weight-wise, at least it's been over like at least 15 pounds. So yeah.
Cool. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
That's okay.
The moment.
Yeah. So I think the cool thing about it is like even though I was so out of shape, like I kept seeing progress, and the workouts were hard because I was out of shape, and they're still hard. Like I'm consistently usually the last one done.
I mean, I always tell people
all the time.
CrossFit doesn't get easier the better you get at it. In fact, it probably gets harder because you can just go that much harder.
Yeah.
Later.
Add more weight.
So you're either adding more weight, the speed of your reps are different, like everything changes, and it actually just continues to be hard. It's never going to be easy.
That's not comforting at all.
Anyway, back to the moment.
So I started to see progress. I started to see that things weren't as hard as they were day one. I could squat lower than I could on Monday, Friday I could squat lower than I could on Monday. And so I just really, I don't know, it just really clicked. And I was like, this is working. This is where I want to be.
3 sessions in, you already know your body's changing.
Yeah.
And
adapting.
It was
so worth it to me.
Cool.
And the relationship part, and even moving into classes, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But
and I mean, just since we're we were on the topic of how many inches you lost, there was, if I remember correctly, and I could be wrong, at the 12 session mark, you, I believe that 12th session, you redid all those numbers that you started with, all the inches, the weight, and everything. And if I'm not mistaken, you gained a couple pounds. So you gained a couple pounds, which this is super common. And
it was very depressing.
The reason I want to make sure people know this is because this is very common.
Yeah.
And it is very commonly a reason why people will quit before they should.
Yeah.
Because they didn't see the number on the scale, which means next to nothing change. But that's why we take those measurements too.
Yeah.
Because we can show people like, look, you lost 0 pounds, you gained 2 pounds, but look at how much body fat you've lost to the point where now your arms are like not as big, your waist's not as big, your thighs aren't as big, like all that stuff. And that's really what people are here for.
Yeah.
The weight is like this number that we give all this power to, and it turns out to mean next to nothing.
Yeah. And you have to remind yourself of that, because I even like, maybe not so much in like the last month, but the whole time, like, progress has felt very slow. I was like, I'm going to start CrossFit and I'm going to have this incredible body in like 3 months. And like, it's been very slow.
Yeah.
But I've seen changes. Like, I've seen changes in my arms. I've seen changes in the way that my clothes fit. I've seen changes in my stamina. Like, I have the stamina of like a 95-year-old lady, and not like a mall walker, like a lady who's been in like an automatic wheelchair for like 20 years. Like, for real, like I can't do like much of anything. And so like
chain smoking.
Yeah, chain smoking, all of that. So like I go hiking on the weekends and I can go like way farther and it's easier. And so I have to constantly remind myself to like not get so wrapped up in the weight.
The number. Yeah.
Yeah, and that I know that like change is happening, and I feel so much better.
Well, you spoke to some of those changes on like this superficial level. What about changes like on a lifestyle level?
Yeah.
What is changing for you there?
So I mean, obviously, like, you know, what I shared in the beginning, like having lost my mom, like, you know, that will be a lifelong process of like grieving and dealing with that. But working out has helped so much with like the depression side. And just, I don't know, like there's something about like when you feel confident about yourself, and, you know, I'm starting to feel confident. I'm starting to feel like attractive again, and I didn't. And it's helped a lot with like how I feel emotionally and with depression, and just, I don't know, it's making me want, like, I want to, you know, get my master's. And like there's things that like, because I feel healthy physically, like there are things, it's changing a lot of other areas of my life. Like it's, you know, been changing the way that I eat. It's been changing, you know, me getting out and doing more things. And
this is like super important. So if you're listening and you're not in our gym or facility, this is the most important thing about it, really. Everybody in here has one thing in common, and that's they all want some level of confidence.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter who's coming in. That always ends up being a part of our conversation on that first meeting.
Yeah.
And what you're saying is that confidence, it isn't a superficial thing. You know. Yes, the inches and things are superficial, but that's giving you this confidence that then allows you to like open up, right? So like your goal is to lose weight. Okay. Once you stop thinking of it as weight and start thinking of it as inches, now your goal is, I'm going to get my master's. You know what I mean? And people don't make those connections very often. Yeah. But this is like really important, because these are the tertiary effects of what we do here. Yeah. Right? And we always try to get people to really notice and highlight those for themselves. Yeah. Like, what would happen if you achieved this? Yeah. And when you realize that, and you start realizing that, holy shit, like, all I do is achieve. And it's like, you start singing that song, all I do is win, win, win. Like, that's like, every day. That's every day, right? That song is like your theme song. Yeah. No, that's what we're really trying to get at, is like, this is like, we can get all the superficial results we want. Doesn't mean anything if you don't realize that it trained you to do this next. Yeah, because I mean, how you feel about yourself affects everything. Like, absolutely. Am I going to go home and, you know, eat a whole pizza and sit in bed and watch TV, or because I feel good about myself, I'm going to make a healthy dinner. Right. That decision of eating pizza and watching TV is easy for someone who's not exercising usually. Yeah. It is difficult to make that decision for someone who's exercising. And I still sit in bed and eat pizza, but it's just a lot less, you know, than I did. Yeah. No, I mean, again, we want you to have a lifestyle that's sustainable. Yeah. So when you see the slow results, and she's talking about slow results, guess what? They're super sustainable results, and she's changing the habits that go with them. So over time, the results just keep stacking and stacking and stacking, and they're permanent. Yeah. Right? So then 50-year-old Rachel will be able to keep pursuing goals that probably aren't even fitness related anymore.
Yeah.
Because she's so good at this one thing about fitness, and her lifestyle is so in tune that she can pursue things that are far and above a level that she ever thought was going to be achievable.
Yeah.
And that's super important, because I don't think people give it enough power.
Yeah.
And it's almost like a crisis that we're in when you talk about it like that. So anyway.
And I like never in my life have like enjoyed working out, and like when I don't work out, like I literally in my body like feel gross, like which is weird, right? Because like if I can do it, anybody can do it, like, and I mean that 100%.
Yeah.
So
you've always said that.
Yeah. And I'll say it till I die.
And you're absolutely a joy to have in classes and stuff too.
Well, thanks.
So I guess the last thing I want you to really like try to convey to the audience today is there's a lot of people out there that were in similar shoes as you before you started.
Yeah.
What can you say to them to make them take the action they need to take?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is like, well, a couple things. One, don't be afraid to try something new. Like what I was doing was not working. And I went out on a limb and I tried something new. Two, just show up. Like the hardest part is like actually coming and showing up. And that's huge. You show up, and once you get here, like, you know, I feel so much better after I've come here. And I think also like the relational side of things, like I've met incredible people here, and there are people here that are like beasts, like straight beasts, and they're so friendly and they're so encouraging. And you know, there have been classes where I'm the last one done by like 4 minutes, and the entire class is like cheering me on, you know, and it's just, it's humbling and it's very encouraging at the same time. And so I think there are people where like gym does not work. It just, you know, going to the gym doesn't work.
Yeah.
I come here, I'm told what to do, I go home, but I've gained relationships and I've gained confidence and I've gained so many other things.
There's a support system built in, there's all this stuff,
with that.
So the last thing I want everybody to understand is that in our first meeting, I've never had anybody say this in a meeting, but Rachel said she wanted to date again. She hasn't dated since her mom passed away.
Yeah.
And that was a big deal for her. She didn't feel like she could. What's happening here in a few hours?
I got a date tonight.
First date. Nice job.
Let's hope it's not horrible.
Yeah, I mean, we never know. So,
it's
but anyway,
that's not
congratulations.
The point.
I'm glad that we were part of this, and I'm
Yeah.
excited about the future with you.
Yeah.
Hit us up, guys. Don't cripple yourselves with the anxiety. Just press the buttons, and we'll take care of the rest.
Yeah.
All right, everyone have an awesome weekend.
Whoop, whoop.